Welcome to another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy series presented by Florida Blue. I'm Kendra Douglas. Today, we have a pretty special episode because we are talking to Mykiah Bonhom, an esports specialist at Spectrum. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just, taking it one day at a time.
It's the holidays, kind of getting ready for all of that too. Are you feeling the holidays? Are you enjoying life right now?
I mean, well, this is the first holiday of mine where I'm like working in the workforce, so it's very different now because normally I'm used to going home from college or school and like relaxing and stuff, but now my boss is like, we got projects and stuff to do. We got to end the year out, and I'm like, well,
I guess
at
so.
least I get Christmas Eve and day off.
There you go. There you go. That's the spirit. So I want to just jump right into things and kind of just walk us through a little bit of your history, of your timeline, how you got into this. So first, how did you kind of get into the gaming world?
So I've been a gamer my entire life, like most people in esports. I have played all different types of games from like Ratchet and Clank when I was growing up. That's like probably one of my favorite franchises of all time. Getting more into like I guess the esports S titles when I got older, like Rocket League and Overwatch and things like that. And now I'm playing very very hard games like Elden Ring and things. So it's been good. I've been a gamer my whole life, but I never really thought about esports as a career. It's just never something that I thought about. Like I've seen all the phase like MLG montages and like the sniper montages and things like that. But it's not something that my 13, 14-year-old self thought that this could be a career. That changed and when I got to my senior year of high school where I was researching different colleges and I ended up stumbling upon Shenandoah University and I saw that they had a new esports management degree and I was like I was like, well, if I'm gonna spend thousands of dollars for college,
Right.
I at least want to spend it towards something that I want to do. So I went and I visited Shenandoah, and I remember it. It was I think it was the Shenandoah Esports Invitational, something along those lines. But it was just a tournament. They had Overwatch, they had Super Smash Brothers, and they had Rocket League going on, and they had food trucks and everything, and they invited a bunch of local schools. And I don't know, like in hindsight, it's one of the smaller events that I've been to in my life, but just seeing that and seeing the environment that people were in the community that was being created, I knew I was like, I need to be a part of this. Like, I want to be a part of this. I didn't know exactly what esports was, but it's just my heart was telling me that this is something that I wanted to do. So, I talked with the professor, and he's been a great mentor of mine throughout my life. And it was funny because about like 2 or 3 weeks after I visited Shenandoah, I was like, well, Shenandoah, it's great, but it's too expensive. So maybe I can just keep this esports thing, on my mind. And then I ended up getting the presidential scholarship, which is the highest academic award that you can get at Shenandoah. And so I was like, well, I guess they really want me. So I went and I decided to go to Shenandoah, and I never looked back. And I had a once in a lifetime experience there. It was awesome.
That's amazing. And I like how you kind of looked into it and researched it. But I think the biggest thing, too, for those who are going to be watching is it sounds like you did have support to be able to go to this school. Did you feel like, you were supported by your family and, to go after a dream in esports, which is kind of unconventional and still something that people are kind of talking about today? Like, did you feel like that you were supported to go there and be able to be a part of the esports community?
Well, I will say that I won't say that there wasn't support, but there was, I think, just a little bit of hesitation from a lot of my family members. Like a lot of my family members were like, oh, this is cool, but like maybe you should also get like a computer science degree or like have some sort of backup degree that could be a little bit more flexible. But I'm stubborn, and I was like, nope, this is what I'm going to do. But as far as like my intermediate family, like my brother, he said that he was like, I mean, this sounds like something that's perfect for you. My mom was a little hesitant at first, but she actually like went and researched like what esports is, and like she looked at the articles and stuff that I sent her, and she was just like, you know what, like I don't understand everything, but this seems like something that you want to do, that you would be great at doing. And so, my mom was and still is fully supportive. Now, when it comes to my dad, I won't say my dad isn't fully supportive. He is. He just still, like, this is just a whole new world for him. And he just, like, it wasn't until I started getting like internships and job and like now my full-time job in esports where he was just like, oh, like now it's starting to make sense and everything. Cause I'll tell my dad, I'm like, he's like, so he still asks me to this day, he's like, so what exactly do you do? And I'm like, I sell gaming and esports furniture and stuff. And he's like, so you sell tables and chairs? Yeah. He's like, so you get that paycheck? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's good. That's all I need to hear. So he's just, my dad's just a little bit more old school, but he's like, I wouldn't say that that doesn't mean he's not supportive. It's a new world, like it is for a lot of people.
So how did that school kind of help you or help propel you to where you are today and the opportunities that you were given and awarded on the internships? How did that help really set you off for where you're at now?
Yeah. So one thing that I loved about Shenandoah was that Joey Gariziak, who he now was just recruited to Syracuse University to start their esports program, he really emphasized what we call experiential learning. So those are experiences outside of the classroom, like all of the internships and the roles and like all of the different events that we would work outside of the classroom because he would always tell us like, yes, make sure your grades are good, go to class, but no one is ever going to ask you what's your GPA or what like this is esports. He's like, no, this isn't, you're not becoming a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. No one's really going to care about what you did in the classroom. If someone's looking to hire you, they're going to care more about what do you do, what's on your resume, what experiences do you have that can help you, to help show us that you will be beneficial to bring onto the company. And so for me, it was really beneficial because I remember my freshman and sophomore year, we would do a lot of events on campus, which were great. But, I would always say, like, Joey, you always tell us that, we need these experiential things. Like, I love what we do here, but, I would love to try to get some tangible experience for like a company that is in esports so that I can go and when I enter the workforce, I'm like, hey, I've already been doing these things in the workforce. And he was just like, okay, well, after COVID and everything settled down, obviously, I ended up getting internships with like Events DC, who is a local government run events company here. I got internships with the Washington Justice, who now the redacted Overwatch League. They were one of the teams there. I also had a couple of contract positions with Esports Engine, who I think they now are under ESL, but they were running the Halo Championship Series, and I was doing ticketing for them. And it was those experiences where, like, I mean, one, I was pretty much just running around, just doing whatever they told me because I was just excited and eager to be in the industry. But, it was those experiences that, I was able to go to my boss now, and he told me, he was like, like I was 20, well, yeah, I'm still 23 at the time, but he was just like, you have a lot of experience at such a young age, and we're looking for someone who understands the esports industry and is a part of the environment and can help give us a different perspective of how we can sell our product to K-12 and collegiate esports programs. And so he ended up hiring me on. And really, not only were those experiences fun in the moment, like now it's helped me get a job that I can say that I love doing what I do, which I didn't think I'd be able to say that until like my 40s.
No, that's real. That's real. It's very hard nowadays to do that, but when you love what you do, it makes the job so much easier. And I firsthand can say that I completely understand that. So talk a little bit about what you do and your title. How did you get this role? And what are some of the specifics that you do on a day-to-day basis?
So for me, how I ended up in the role at Spectrum was, so I had a job originally for a startup esports gambling company called Unicorn. This was from pretty much when I graduated till about October, November last year. I think October. But I worked there as a marketing coordinator, and it was great. It was honestly like I loved what I do. I love what I did there, and it was fun and it was great. But unfortunately, a part of a lot of people in the esports winter. I was unfortunately laid off, and so I honestly didn't think that I was going to be in esports anymore. I was just like, well, this was great, but I'm going to stay involved in the industry, keep in contact with people. But, in my mind, I was like, well, I'm probably just going to have to go into a traditional business role to build my skill sets and come back to esports. And so I always love to keep in connections with people or keep in contact with connections I make. So my now boss, I had just reached out to him, and he had actually mentioned that there was a position that was open that he thought that I was perfect for, but I was like, but I already accepted a job and I'm moving to New Jersey, so that's can't happen. But I reached back out to him and I was like, hey Scott, like, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was like, maybe that position's still open, but I was just like, hey Scott, just got laid off, unfortunately, don't know where my path in esports is going to be, but just wanted to keep in contact. And so this guy was just like, so you're on the market now, is what I'm hearing. So we ended up having a meeting, and he went and he was just like, you're perfect for this role, and we feel like it would be very beneficial for you to be on here at Spectrum. And so I've been here. It actually just passed a year last month, because I think I started November 14th. So little over a year here at Spectrum, and it's honestly amazing. As far as my day-to-day tasks, so my job is pretty much in two parts. So I fall under business dev at our company, which I know is a very broad thing, but for remotely where I'm at right now in my apartment, I do a lot of business dev for our company. So that's talking about what are some different products that we could be looking into that could help benefit us and help get it in more into educational esports spaces or people outside of education as well. Helping with our marketing efforts of showing off like our esports guidebook or our esports idea book, giving ideas of like how can we better market our product towards people and get more people to know about who is Spectrum, and not the cable company, Spectrum Industries, the furniture company, and how we can help other people get more furniture, and even use like our connections to help with other aspects as well. Also just working on like different personal projects. Like on my LinkedIn, I've been slacking a little bit because a lot of other traveling and everything has taken priority, but writing different articles and like using my experience as an esports major to, show people like what I'm doing, and how I'm trying to create whatever little impact that I can in the esports space. And eventually, people being like, oh, Mykiah, like you're really great. You're really great to work with, can we buy some furniture? Obviously, all of it leads back to selling furniture. But yeah, so that's as quick as a culmination of what I can do, because a lot of it is just literally just doing whatever is thrown to me. But that's more on the remote side. When I'm traveling, which is like the other 50 to 60% of my job, sometimes feels like 70, 80, but I'm going to different trades. Ooh, sorry, there was something on my leg. I apologize. But going to different trade shows and talking to educators and like people within like the military, and talking to people who are interested in esports, talking to them about, well, first off, a lot of them don't really know what esports is, so then explaining esports, and then when they know esports is, explaining to them how esports can be helpful with their goals, whether it's working with the military to help with recruitment or retention, or helping with the educators to, find new and innovative ways to engage with their students. So, I'm having a lot of those different conversations because, again, like I can use my perspective of like, I've gone to school, I've got an esports degree, and I have a job in the industry, and I would say that I've been pretty successful in what I have done. Like there are students out there who can be just like me, just trying to convey that message to people as well. And, obviously then would involve like, building an esports arena or a space, no matter how big or how small it can be, So those are the two parts of what I do on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah.
That's awesome, and it's really cool that you get to travel and get to explain how, everything is important and everything is connected in a way as well. And I just wanna ask, like, did you ever imagine that when you applied to university, when you decided you wanted to go in esports, that you would be able to live out in a position like this, that esports would allow you these opportunities? Like, did you ever think that that was possible?
No, not at all. When I honestly thought that like even if I worked in esports, I thought that I would be in like just a traditional internship type role, like not like being the person that goes and like gets the coffee and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
just being more of like, not as relied on as I am. But I do have a lot of people that rely on me and trust my input now. And so it's just something where like I'm up to the task and I love it because it makes me feel like I'm being heard and that my voice matters where I work at. But sometimes, it's like it's a lot of pressure and it's fine. It's with
Yeah.
you get used to it. But no, I just never really expected as far as like the travel and everything. And like I said earlier, I just never expected to be able to say like I love what I do and like I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to go on calls and talk to people about what is esports and how to help them build their facilities and how to integrate esports into education and everything. It's just honestly, if you'd asked me, I'd say even like 2 years ago, like would you want to work in education? I'm like, there's so much bureaucracy and politics in education. Like I no, like I'm not. I don't think I'd be in education, and yet here I am.
Yeah, yeah. You talked about challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've faced in your role and how you've been able to really overcome those?
So I think that the biggest thing I face right now, honestly, is imposter syndrome.
Mm,
I think it's just understanding that like not that I don't believe that I worked hard to get here or anything, but it's just sometimes it just hits me of like, I have different conversations with people in the industry and they're always asking me questions of like Mykiah, like how do you get a job? How do you get a job here? Like how can you do this? How can you do that? And I'm just like, I'm figuring it out. Like I got lucky twice. I got lucky twice with these jobs. Like I don't know how I did it. I just always have just tried to be genuinely me and portray my well not portray myself, just be a genuine person and just figure it out. And luckily it's worked out so far. It could stop working out. I don't know. but but it's just the imposter syndrome does kick in a lot, but luckily I have a really great support system, not only at home but also people in the workforce who always reiterate to me like Mykiah, like yes you're young and we've been in this industry for a while, but like you deserve to be here, you're such a value to the team, like we love having you here, so that's great as well. As far as like the work aspect of what is the biggest challenge, honestly I would just say it's communicating with conservative people on like people who just don't like are very resistant to esports and they just kind of see it as like, oh they're just kids playing video games, like they already I already have my kids at home playing video games, why would I want my students doing it? So I'd say that's the biggest hurdle for me, because I mean I embrace it, I love having those conversations because I'm not afraid to talk to somebody about what my perspective is or anything, because at the end of the day, like if they're stuck in their beliefs I can't change that, and I respect how they feel, it's fine.
right.
But just having those conversations are really great because I it's really great when you see the light bulb like change in their head when like you say just the right thing or you show them the right article or something like that where they're like, wow, like it just really turns a switch where they're like, maybe this will be beneficial or maybe this could be integrated into my program. And so it's just, yeah, those are the days where it's great, but some days I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
man, it's just, yeah.
That's cool that you get to kind of be able to spearhead that and kind of blend that together and change people's mindsets. When I was looking at some of the things that you've been able to accomplish, I saw that you got to spend a week in South Korea, and talk a little bit about that volunteering and just what it was like in that experience for you.
Yeah, so it was great because besides one flight to Florida, I had really not been on too many flights in my life before then. So knowing me, like it's awesome to go and be like, okay, not on a lot of flights. Let's jump on a 16-hour flight to go to South Korea. But that was actually it was in December of 2019, which was literally like right before COVID and everything happened. So yeah, it was a weird time. It was a weird time, but it was honestly a really great experience. We worked with the International Esports Federation. I think it was their 16th World Championships, and they had Dota 2, Pro Evolution Soccer, and I think they had Tekken. I don't know what Tekken was out. Tekken 6 or 7. I'm not sure which one was out, but they had Tekken there. And it was amazing. It was like, honestly, I mean, besides London, like it was my like one of my favorite experiences out of the country. It was just awesome because we went there and like I was just a wayfinder. Like I just went there and I was mostly just directing people very poorly because a lot of them spoke very different languages because it was an international esports tournament. So like a lot of this was so it was mostly just me pointing or doing stuff. But just seeing again, like I just love this community so much, the community that we have here, because like esports has a lot of like introverts and a lot of people who don't really talk a lot, including myself, except when it comes to my job. Then I got to be more of an extrovert. But just seeing how much it brings out of people and the joy that it brings people to come together, it just really honestly I love that aspect. And like I got to try Korean barbecue in South Korea. That was a really great experience. We went and we would like travel around the city and everything. We got to see like the culture of South Korea and like how kind they are there. It was really awesome to just go and experience another culture because I think it just really gives you a lot of perspective of how different people are across the world. I mean, I feel like people give the United States not enough credit because like, someone from like Florida is completely different from someone who lives in like Boston or something
Yeah.
like that, like completely different cultures and everything. But like going to another country, like people who live on a whole different island, you could call it, and seeing how their environment is and how they do things, it really gives you a great perspective. So it was honestly like still to this day one of my favorite experiences. And I did as a freshman, so it
Oh,
was
wow.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah. That was my freshman December of my freshman year. So like 2 or 3 months in, like, our professor was like, "Hey, we have a trip to South Korea. You want to go?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'll go."
So, how have you been able to see? I mean, you're still so young, but like, how have you been able to see just the esports landscape change since you really got into the scene and the growth of it?
Yeah, I mean, esports has even in the like I'd say 4 or 5 years that I've been in the esports industry, it's changed a lot. I work in education, but I do still pay attention to the professional side. So I'll talk about the two sides at least.
Yeah.
For the professional side, there's been a lot of pullback from investors and sponsors and things like that. I think that this is something that was unfortunately going to happen. I'm a very blunt person, and I'll say that there are a lot of bad faith actors in the professional side who are just looking to make a quick buck and or like look at the numbers that Worlds gets every year and they're like, oh, like we can mimic that. And it's like, you don't have like a 15, 20 plus year old game with a dedicated fan base to rely on. But I think it's just that bubble is kind of bursting, and unfortunately, that means that a lot of people have gotten laid off and a lot of people have lost jobs, which sucks. But I think that it also creates room for people who genuinely want to see this space grow and want to see things be grown at a good rate and like really want to help and support one another to give them the opportunity to have more of a face and more of a forefront in the industry. I think that it's been very interesting, and I know a lot of people say things like esports is dying and things like that, and I'm like, well, I don't think esports is dying. I think that people just need to be a little bit more creative in the ways that they market esports or the ways that they create sponsorships with or partnerships within esports. I think that people need to stop looking at this industry as a traditional type, like, oh, like the NFL does this, like let's do what they do, and it's like that's not gonna work. Like again, if you look at an NFL fan and the average esports fan, I guarantee you'll find a lot of things different in the things that they like and the way that they are. So I think the professional side, I still have a lot of hope in it. A part of me maybe still wants to work in the professional side one day. I don't know where my career is heading, leading me right now, honest, but right now it just has me in education. So I'll lead that into how I've seen education change. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but Shenandoah was one of the first schools in the country, and it was only like one of three, maybe four in the world to offer esports as a degree. Now I see esports degrees popping up everywhere. I see
Yeah.
colleges integrating it and colleges integrating esports arenas. And so esports has shown a lot of rapid growth within the education space. And, with a lot of conversations that I'm having with educators, and I think you can look at a lot of the statistics where, people are saying things like, men specifically are going less to college, children are paying a lot less attention in class, children are not even going to class, like what is it, like grades are lower, like education is just in a very scary spot right now. And I always try to communicate to people that, like, it's not about when you're integrating an esports program, it's not about having the students come in and just play video games, no, but it's giving them a reason to go to school, a reason to want to keep their grades up, a reason to have them come to school and build a community. I've talked to so many different districts, and where I'll use like Garden State Esports up in New Jersey, for example, where Chris Aviles talks about how his students have like upped their GPAs and like their test scores are going up, because even though esports is an after school program, like they have a system where you have to be academically eligible, and they're like, well, if I want to compete on my Rocket League team, I have to be academically eligible in order to be there. And so, I always look at it like that. I mean, obviously there are like skills, especially with like Minecraft education, where students can go in and learn physical skills in the games and things like that. But, I always look at it as like, for me, I'll be honest, like, I don't really like school. I don't like. I have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree. I don't really like school that much. Do I like going to class, and do I like taking pop quizzes or taking long 2-hour exams and stuff? Like, I think crazy people like doing that stuff. But I looked at it as, this is a means to an end. I want to do this esports thing, and in order to do it, like, I gotta go to class and I gotta do what I gotta do. And obviously, that's no knack. Like, I've had great professors and everything, but I think it's just changing that perspective of the traditional way that education has been for a very, very long time. I think a lot of people need to realize that that's just not really going to work anymore. I mean, I'll be honest, where my generation, and especially the next generation, like, we've grown up in an environment where we're always using the internet. We're using things like TikTok and YouTube, Twitch. Like, these are the platforms that people are engaging in. And so I look at it not as a thing of like, oh, this is distracting students. Well, I mean, it is distracting them. I can't lie about that. But I think it's, how do you bring education into their world instead of trying to force their world out of education? And I think that there's a lot more people embracing that, which is something that I am very excited for and very happy to see, because, I think that education as a whole, I mean, I'm not an educator. I don't know a lot, but I think education as a whole has been due for a really like a needed rework. So
Kind of leads us into the next question of just, what do you think, or what do you see are some of the like common misconceptions of esports and what people think?
I think that the biggest misconception that I see is obviously, like, it's just students playing video games. My golden point that I always tell people, that I always go to, is, well, whether you like it or not, they're going to play the video games. They're going to go play them. They're going to go over to their friend's house. They're going to sneakily play it on their phone. They're going to go and do stuff. Like, they're going to play video games whether you like it or not. Would you rather them play video games at home hear things online that they probably shouldn't be saying and repeating them, raging and doing very, very not things that we should be doing,
Yeah, yeah.
um, in their basement when not having a good diet, eating Doritos and drinking Mountain Dew and stuff like that? Or would you rather them be in an environment in school where they can go and compete on a team and have friends that they go and talk to? Would you rather them, if they have a moment where they rage and throw their controller, having a professor there, whether they know about esports or not, to be like, hey, like, that's not how you deal with losing. Like, let's actually go and look at what you did, and like, let's see what went wrong in that situation, and how can we go and improve on that. I
Mhm.
think that that's always the thing where I talk to people like, well, when you put it like that, and I'm like, yeah, because I mean, that's just how I see it. That's just how I see it. So that's what I always see is the biggest, a really, really big misconception. I think another big misconception is that I think a lot of people just don't really understand like what kind of, like, how do I explain this? A lot of people look to start an esports program not in the right way. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people who get very excited they're like, oh, like, I want to build the best League of Legends team in the country. I want to build the best Valorant team. I have a Valorant player that's like top 500 in the world. Like, they're going to carry us all the way over to where we get a championship. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. But do your students want that? The first thing I always tell people is before you think about doing anything, like host some sort of game night or go and survey your students and ask them like what would they be looking for in an esports program? Because you may have a top 500 Valorant player, but do they care to go and compete on a team? If they don't care to go and to compete on a team, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not beneficial.
Yeah.
You may have a top 500 player in this, but you may have someone who is maybe average at best at like Madden, but with a good, they really are excited, and with a good bit of coaching, you can go and take them into a top 500 player in the world. And so there are a lot of people who come in, and I understand. I'm not saying that I am not for the excitement. Like, I understand the excitement, I understand the want and the desire to want to build a great program and things like that. But I always tell people before you think about doing anything, always make sure that you're giving your students what they want, because your students they'll teach you a lot, and you can also teach them a lot as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And that you just keep segueing into the things that I want to talk about. You talk about like your students will teach you a lot, teachers will teach you a lot. What do you, for young viewers who will be watching this, how would you, or what advice would you give them about going into this professional space and how to handle going into this professional space, especially working in esports?
Oh, I hate this question. I hate this question because it's just it's a very complex question. But I'll just say this. When you're going into esports, I guess I'll say it in two parts. So one, just because you love video games and you love esports, that it does not necessarily mean that you want to work in esports. I'll give a prime example where working with Esports Engine with the Halo Championship Series. My first event, I kid you not, it was a 3-day event. Every night I went to sleep at about 2 a.m.
Mhm.
and I got up at 6 a.m. And that was for 3 days straight. I don't know how I did it to this day. Still don't know how I did it. But going in, working these esports events, like, that's what the environment is like. You're working very, very long hours. Like, obviously that's an event, so like that is it's different, obviously. But it's very, very long hours. It's very, very hard work. Like, there are a lot of people who, again, there's a lot of people in this industry where they're looking for people like us because they're trying to wrap their heads around of like how to market to people. How do they market to someone like me who maybe will watch a Twitch stream or watch something like that? Like, how can they market their product to us? They're looking for you for the answers to those questions. And it can be a lot of pressure, and you're just like, I just like watching Worlds and watching Faker beat everyone. Like, I didn't expect all this. So I don't mean that to discourage people, but one of the harshest realities that I have seen with a lot of my contemporaries, as far as like college and everything, is talk so much about how much they love esports, and I'm like, well, loving esports and working in esports is two different things. So
Mhm.
that's one. Now I'll be a little bit more like optimistic, and so I always say my biggest piece of advice that I tell people is to network. Esports it's a very, very simple term, and I know it's so cliche, but it's true. Esports is it's a growing industry, but it's also very, very small and tight knit. Where especially in education, if you meet one person, like they probably can lead you to a whole vast amount of people that you don't even realize, you know. And so I always say that make sure you are going out and networking with people. So if you are right now, if you're looking in, if I had to completely start over, like I wasn't where I am right now, I would do exactly what I was doing in college, where, you know, so outside of class and sometimes in class, I'm not gonna lie, I would be going and messaging people on LinkedIn, and I'd be like, hey, you know, I have 30 minutes of your time just to go and talk to you about what you do in your position and how to get into esports. Just going and having these conversations with people. And then I would also be going and traveling to different events. I would be going to the Dream Hacks, the Twitch cons, the like the I can't the PAX East and things like that. Going to these different gaming tournaments or gaming adjacent events where people are at, and just going to people who are at the booths and everything, and having conversations with them about, you know, how to get into esports and how to go grow into this industry. Because I always tell people, when you are going and networking, when I'm going and networking with people, I'm never, well, I won't say never, but my goal is not to go in to try to get a job from somebody. Like whenever I was networking with these people, I just genuinely wanted to get into the industry and know about what they're doing. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, as someone, especially where I'm at, like if you go and if you ask someone for an internship or something, you are drastically decreasing your chances to actually get said internship, because now they're like, oh, well, you're just another person that is just asking me for something. And unfortunately, people in the business world are asked for a lot of free things, and they're just like, oh, well, that's a lot. Um, but if you actually go and you try to get to know the person and get to know them genuinely and keep in contact with them, then you want to be the person where if somebody is looking for a role, or if someone is like, hey, like I'm looking for a 23-year-old who is in esports, understands the educational environment esports, you want that person to think, oh my gosh, like Mykiah, he's the perfect person that I know for the job. I'm gonna go send him an email right now and I'm gonna recommend him. That will do so much more for you than you going and asking 1,000 people, can I get an internship? Like that, that is so much more powerful networking. And you know, I always tell people, like I always try to tell it to like my friends and everything, like just don't even bring up an internship, don't bring nothing, pretend like you got everything figured out, even if you don't. Just go and just try to convey yourself the best way you can and talk about your interests and everything, and you just want to be the spark in their mind when they see something that's perfect for you. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Mental health is really one of the big topics we talk about on this webinar series. So I want to ask you, what are some ways that you were able to prioritize your mental health?
So, it could be very hard.
Yeah.
I do have a therapist, and she is amazing. She helps me a lot. But I think that what I always tell people is, or like what I always tell myself, at least I'll come from my perspective, is maintain a work-life balance. Like I love what I do. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it is still work. It has its hard days, and I also should just enjoy life. Like I personally, I believe in the concept of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you should just be grinding out like 24/75 or whatever, 24/7, 365. Like I just don't believe in that. I believe that at a certain point, like you're just getting diminishing returns of like how hard you could be working, because you're just stressing your body, you're actually making your body worse, so that your body can't work at that maximum level. And so I always try to tell myself of like, okay, like I'm working hard, I'm doing what I'm doing, but you know, this weekend, like instead of maybe thinking about esports and education and stuff, why don't I go spend time with my mom? Or why don't I go spend time with my family or going and doing things like that? Just not always having myself stressed out about work and everything like that. And just trying to put myself in situations that remind me overall that I'm appreciated to be here. People love who I am and people love having me around. And just trying to do that so that I can just go out and enjoy life as much as I can. So, you know, it's an everyday struggle. You know, I'm not saying that I'm perfectly happy and giddy every single day. Like there's some days where I have my hard days, but you know, it's a journey. It's a journey. So, yeah.
That's good. That's real. That's sharing the realness of it all, and I think our viewers would love hearing that. So, Mykiah, before we let you go, can you share with us how people can get in contact with you and how they can reach out to you through your social medias?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the best place to reach out to me is LinkedIn. I linked in my LinkedIn way too much, mostly because I don't like how Twitter is right now. But LinkedIn is really good. I do still use Twitter. The little parts where I see there's esports Twitter and everything, and also the occasional funny stuff. So my Twitter is just my first name, last name, Mykiah Bonhom, probably be in the title of this video, and so is my LinkedIn. I make it easy for people, just my name. So you know, luckily there's not a lot of people named Mykiah Bonhom.
Right, exactly. So, well, thank you so much, Mykiah, for joining us. And this has been another edition of Magic Gaming Esports Academy webinar series presented by Florida Blue. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you guys for watching us and watching this Esports Academy episode.